Area of shaded regions. To find the area of composite shapes that have pieces removed, we want to find the entire area of the composite pieces and then subtract the areas that are removed. So always develop a plan of how you are going to calculate the shaded region using the basic shapes. So using circles, triangles, rectangles, and so on. We're going to go through a couple examples today, looking at how we find the area of a shaded region. So the first one involves a rectangular metal plate that's formed by drilling 4 circular holes with a diameter of 2.4 centimeters out of the corners as displayed on the right. So we're going to calculate the area of the shaded region, and we're first going to figure out a plan. So my plan for this one will be to calculate the area of the entire square, or the entire rectangle in this case. So I'm going to find my total area by taking my rectangle, which I'm going to call area 1, and I'm going to label my circles as 2, and I have 4 of those, and this is what I'm taking away. So I'm taking away 4 of my area 2's. So the area of this shaded region is going to be the area of the rectangle subtracting 4 of the area of a circle. And all of my circles are exactly the same. So I first want to calculate the area of my rectangle. So remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. I'm going to represent my length as 16 and my width will be 11. So the area of shape 1 will be 16 times 11, which gives us 176 centimeters squared. I'm then going to calculate the area of my circles. In order to do that, if we remember from our formula sheet, the area of a circle is pi r squared. Now I'm given the diameter of my circle. So the diameter of my circle is 2.4 centimeters. So I have to calculate my radius. And the radius is half of the diameter, or 2.4 divided by 2. So the radius of my circle is 1.2 centimeters. So that's the value I'm going to substitute into my formula for r. So the area of my circle is 3.14 times 1.2 squared. Always following BEDMAS, so I have to do my exponent first. So 1.2 squared is 1.44. And 3.14 times 1.44 works out to be about 4.5, and my units are centimeters squared. So now when I'm working out my area of the shaded region, and if you want, you can, instead of using total area, you could change that to shaded area if that's something that'll be more helpful for you. So this shaded area is the area of my rectangle taking away 4 areas of my circles. So I have 176 take away 4 times 4.5. I must do my multiplication first. So 4 times 4.5 gives me 18. And 176 subtract 18 is 158 centimeters squared. So now that I've calculated the shaded area, I can say, therefore, the shaded region has an area of 158 centimeters squared. If I wanted to calculate for part B the percentage of the rectangular plate that was wasted from drilling those 4 holes in the corner, what I would do is I would think about, well, what was the shape that I started with? So the shape that I started with was the rectangle. And that, if I didn't take anything out, so the way you want to think about it is the area you subtract over the whole shape, and then whatever you get, you're going to then multiply by 100%. So in our case, we subtracted those 4 circles. So we subtracted 18 centimeters squared. The entire original shape was our rectangle, which was 176 centimeters squared. And then I'm going to multiply that by 100%. So what I end up getting is about 0.10. I'm only using 2 decimal places so that when I multiply it by 100%, I'm going to get a whole number. So this ends up becoming about 10%. So I've wasted about 10% from drilling those 4 holes. The next example looks at a piece of sheet metal in the shape below. And we want to figure out how much of this area of this sheet metal, I've had to cut it so that it fits around a vent. What would the area of this irregular shape be? So you may want to think about, okay, if I was to extend this shape, what would I have started with? Well, I would have started with a rectangle. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. So again, I'm going to label my rectangle as area 1. And then what did I cut out? Well, I cut out a quarter of a circle. So I'm going to call this area 2. So the shaded area of this shape, so I start with a rectangle, so area 1, and I'm subtracting the quarter of the circle, which is area 2. That's going to be very helpful for us. So let's go ahead and calculate the area of my full rectangle. So the area of a rectangle is length times width. I'm going to use 22 as my length and 12 as my width. So I have 22 times 12, which works out to be 264, and my units in this one is inches squared. Now I'm going to work out the area of the quarter of my circle. So I'm going to start by looking at the area of a full circle, which is pi r squared, and because it's a quarter of a circle, I'm going to divide that by 4. Now I have to think about what is my radius. So because this is a quarter of a circle, my radius ends up being 12 inches. So I'm going to substitute 12 in for my r. So I have 3.14 times 12 squared divided by 4. Always follow BEDMAS. So 3.14 times 144, 12 squared, 12 times 12, divided by 4. I want to simplify my numerator first, so that's 452.16, all over 4, and that simplifies to about 113 inches squared. So now I know the area of my full rectangle. So the area of shape 1, if I go back up here, was 264 inches squared. The area of my quarter circle I just worked out to be 113. So now I can subtract these two values to show that the area of my shaded region is 151 inches squared.